Hello, I'm Esther Githu-Yuat. Welcome to Africa 54. Here is what's coming up. Vote counting is ongoing in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the race for the presidency after logistical challenges prompted a voting extension. In an interview with VOA, Liberia's president-elect Joseph Boakai explains how he plans to tackle youth unemployment and repair the country's broken health system. And in our entertainment report, Heather Maxwell spotlights Kenyan musical artist and cultural entrepreneur Muthoni Drummer Queen. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. The United States National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah on Friday as talks over post-war scenarios for Gaza are held. The United States agrees with Israel that the fight against Hamas will take months, but officials are discussing the timetable for scaling back from high-intensity combat to more precise ways of targeting the militant group's leaders, the top U.S. envoy said that this Friday. This comes amid growing American unease about the mounting death toll in Gaza. President Mahmoud Abbas lost control of Gaza when Hamas drove out his security forces in 2007. A senior U.S. official said that Sullivan and others have discussed the prospect of having... Yeah, but that's what... All right, we're going to move to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And vote counting is ongoing in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And initial results are expected on Friday, according to an official with the Election Commission. Wednesday's chaotic rollout and lengthy delays forced election officials to extend the voting into Thursday. 44 million voters in Congo went to the polls to elect a new president, members of the National Assembly and provincial assemblies, as well as municipal councillors across the country. Many polling stations suffered from logistic problems to keep the electoral process going. As a consequence, Denis Kadima, president of the Independent National Electoral Commission, announced Wednesday evening that polling for the general elections would continue on Thursday. All right, now for more, let's go to Kinshasa, where my colleague Shakur Aboud is live for us there. Shakur, it's great to have you with us again tonight. Tell us whether Sheni has started announcing the results for the polls that just took place.
To tell you the truth, they were supposed to start 30 minutes ago, and knowing DRC, they have to be delayed for sure. But I'm not really sure. They were supposed to start today. I talked with the spokesperson of CENI, and she said that they're going to start today at 5 o'clock local time. It's 5:30 now, so I assume that they've already started. They're going to start counting the result from the diaspora, because for the first time, the Congolese people abroad were able to vote at the embassies in different towns. So they're going to start counting their votes, and then they will start counting the different votes at different polling stations.
Shakur, I understand that the social media is a buzz in DRC as to who is leading in this election. What's being said and how credible can people take that?
Well, in most of the social media, the tendency is showing that Moise Katumbi, the leader of the opposition, is leading. But Tshisekedi is not that much far away. It looks a close race, but you cannot call it scientifically. But what is happening here is the social media is able to read the outcome, because at every polling station, the votes were counted and the results have been published. Those who finished voting on Wednesday, the results have been out on the walls. And yesterday also they put the results on the wall. So the 77,000 voting stations, about 3/4 have already put the results. So followers, supporters, and critics are calculating those numbers and have come out with the results we are seeing right now. So we have to wait and see. Each political party has members at every polling station. They're taking those numbers, putting it together, and they came out with the results.
And very quickly, Shakur, all right, looks like we've run out of time, but thank you very much for your reporting. I'm Shakur Aboud there for us live from Kinshasa. In a landmark ruling this week, Pope Francis approved blessings of same-sex couples by Roman Catholic priests as long as they are not part of regular church rituals or liturgies. Reporter Gibson Emeka spoke to some Catholic faithfuls in Abuja, Nigeria, to get their thoughts on what the Pope said.
Giving that direction from his own angle is not going to affect Christianity because the Bible have settled the whole thing. So it's not going to affect Christianity in Africa per se, even in the world, because it's not in the Bible that
blessing can be pronounced even on madmen. So the Pope's statement does not mean wedding same-sex couples. These are people that need God's mercy.
I am not here to judge. Who am I to judge? But in my own view, I believe and I think it is not good. Because God that created man and woman, Adam and Eve, I think he did something right.
In the end, it's all about what people want to do. You can't control how people feel, their beliefs. It's just about what they want to do.
No way Pope can say he blessed a union of same-sex marriage. You get what I mean? But he can bless you, he can bless any man, but not union of same-sex marriage. That's why you are here to tell the world what Pope really means. Interpret it. Because there's a misinterpretation.
Nigerian Catholics reacting to this week's landmark ruling by Pope Francis that Roman Catholic priests can bless same-sex couples. Now, for more perspective on the landmark decision by Pope Francis, I spoke to Ntal Alimasi, President Emeritus of National Association of African Catholics. Ntal is a native of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has the largest Catholic followers in Africa, and it's one of the 3 countries Pope Francis visited in February this year.
But he said, if a same-sex couple approached a priest for a blessing, the priest is authorized to bless them. There's no, without any question of morality attached to it. That's basically what the Pope responded to the bishops who were asking that question. For clarification here, we have to remember that at the beginning of the synod, Pope Francis mentioned 2 things that were going to be new in this synod. The first one was going to say, how do we treat those Christians who happen to be homosexuals, or here we say gay or lesbians, and within the church? They were to discuss that. The second point was the place that was given to women in this particular synod, meaning the authority to sit down and be part of the decision-making of the church.
So given what we're seeing, and also on social media, the kind of reactions that we've seen coming out of what the Pope is purported to have said and what he said, can the clergy or even the heterosexual people and the LGBTQ community find a common ground?
On the question of finding a common ground here, let's take, first of all, the church. The church is the house of God, where, you are calling people to the house of God. My first question to people who are wrought up in this controversy is, do you want to talk to the people of God from outside when they are outside of the door, or do you want to welcome them inside the house and engage them in a conversation? And I am very cognizant of the fact that in many churches, especially here in the United States, but also probably in Africa and elsewhere, you have gay people who are in service, who most of the time are even more active in service than straight people. So we have to kind of look at that and say, what are we talking about?
That was Ntal Alimasi, President Emeritus of the National Association of African Catholics. France says it will close its diplomatic mission in Niger following a coup earlier this year, according to a letter sent to embassy staff. The news that the French embassy in Niamey is closing comes as France withdrew its last remaining military forces from Niger on Friday in the latest blow to more than a decade of French anti-jihadist operations in West Africa's Sahel region. Relations between France and Niger have been in crisis since the ouster of the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum and Paris' refusal to collaborate with the military junta ruling the country. The exit of French troops leaves just hundreds of U.S. military personnel and a number of Italian and German troops remaining in the country. Liberia's president-elect Joseph Boakai says he has strategies to tackle youth unemployment and repair the healthcare systems. VOA's Peter Clotty spoke with the new president-elect, Joseph Boakai.
We came with a mantra that talked about, first we have a platform, and then we have in a brief platform that talks about arrest, meaning agriculture, roads, the rule of law, education, sanitation, and tourism. We believe these are areas in which we can jumpstart. And in those areas, we believe that our young people who are in the majority, they need to be equipped. We need to open opportunities for them to be trained and be marketable. We also have to make sure that the quality of education that will prepare them for the job market.
Let's look at the health system in Liberia. You mentioned it during your campaign. A lot of people say it's either non-existent or, Liberians would have to go to neighboring countries or even, southern part of the continent to go seek for medical attention. Mr. President-elect, how do you plan to tackle this? Because it's a serious issue.
I have worked with the health sector when I was in government, and you will see that we have Jamale, where now they do, people can go and do their examinations instead of going to Ghana. We have in mind to increase more of that on a regional basis to make sure that people can go somewhere instead of coming all the way to Monrovia to check their. A lot of people say the person just sat down and died. People don't just sit down and die. But that there will be possibilities that people will know at an early stage the condition of their health. Besides that, we want to open opportunities for all our hospitals and clinics to be functional. Everything that we are doing, there have been a lot of work put in the health sector. How should it function? What we need in Liberia is implementation. We're not beginning as a new country. Everything is on paper. What we need is to make sure that we function according to those guidelines that have been set up.
That was Liberia's president-elect Joseph Boakai speaking to VOA's Peter Clotty. Israel is continuing to bombard Gaza on Friday with a blistering campaign of airstrikes and ground operations across the enclave, where the United Nations says more than 500,000 people are starving because not enough food is entering the beleaguered territory. Meanwhile, Hamas fired a barrage of rockets at Tel Aviv Thursday, underscoring the militant group's resilience in the face of Israel's campaign to destroy it. As Israel continues its withering airstrikes in Gaza, tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians are crammed into shelters and tent camps as winter descends, raising fears about the spread of disease. The United Nations Security Council is expected to vote Friday on a new resolution to halt the fighting, which would allow for an increase in humanitarian deliveries. U.S. President Joe Biden has become increasingly isolated on the world stage over his support for Israel's military. VOA White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara has more.
20,000 people have been killed in Gaza since Israel began bombarding it 10 weeks ago, according to Palestinian officials. After days of intense negotiation to avoid a U.S. veto, on Friday, the United Nations Security Council is expected to vote on a resolution that will deliver more aid to Gaza. Israel is against the resolution's original provisions that call for the UN to take over inspection of aid trucks and immediate cessation of hostilities. U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield indicated her support for the current resolution text.
It's a resolution that will bring humanitarian assistance to those in need. It will support the priority that Egypt has in ensuring that we put a mechanism on the ground that will support humanitarian assistance.
As Israel continues its ground operation, President Joe Biden's unwillingness to call for a ceasefire has damaged ties with members of the American Muslim community who organized the Abandon Biden campaign.
We are announcing that President Biden has lost the 2024 election. We are not powerless as American Muslims, we are powerful. We don't only have the money, but we have the actual votes.
National Security Council's John Kirby acknowledged the anger.
We're absolutely listening and trying to get a better understanding of all these different perspectives. That said, no nation should have to live with the threat that Hamas poses to Israel. No nation should have to live with that next door.
The majority of Americans, particularly young voters, disapprove of Biden's handling of the war, according to a New York Times poll.
The poll numbers are shocking, frankly. An accelerated drift away from Biden, Arab Americans, progressives, voters of color, all of these groups are against what appears to be Biden's solid support for Israel. And that could, in a close election, take a toll. So I think the administration needs to tamp Gaza down, move toward reconstruction and humanitarian assistance, and then wrap the whole thing in a serious commitment to an end state.
The same poll shows that voters believe likely Republican nominee Donald Trump would do a better job of handling Gaza. Americans are split between those calling for a ceasefire and those who want Israel to win, even if more casualties mount, leaving Biden with political pressure from both sides. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News at the White House.
Still to come, Washington, D.C. prepares for the Christmas holiday decorations. Stay with us.
Christmas traditions have been around forever. The dinner, the going to church, the gifts exchange makes the holidays an exciting time of the year for many people on the continent. There are various Christmas traditions in Africa. Across the continent, many non-Christians also join in the Christmas festivities. In this week's edition of Our Voices, we'll explore the many ways Christmas is celebrated throughout the continent, regardless of religion. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
sad news from Nigeria. From Algeria, the Algerian Football Federation says a bus crash has killed 2 members of its League One side, Mouloudia El Bayad, and that it is postponing all games scheduled for this week across all divisions. The federation says the accident killed El Bayad reserve goalkeeper Zakaria Bouziani and assistant coach Khalid Muftar. Malawi, which already is suffering from food shortages, is banning the import of unmilled maize from Kenya and Tanzania over concerns that the spread of maize lethal necrosis disease could wipe out the staple food. The Ministry of Agriculture says the disease has no treatment and can cause up to 100% yield loss. And Morocco's water minister says the country is reeling toward its 6th consecutive year of drought as rising temperatures lead to decline in rainfall. Drought has been a major concern for Morocco, whose agriculture sector employs about 1/3 of Moroccans working ago and accounts for 14% of exports, according to authorities. Now, in the entertainment report, Heather Maxwell spotlights Kenyan musical artist and cultural entrepreneur Muthoni Drummer Queen, who has forged a new path and creative space in Nairobi, Kampala, and Kigali.
This Kenyan musical artist and cultural entrepreneur has forged a new path for herself and for other misfits in Nairobi and elsewhere, where being yourself isn't only enough, but celebrated and respected and lucrative. I sat down with Muthoni in Nairobi recently to hear her story.
I want to know about the Blankets and Wine Festival.
So we are a picnic-style music festival. We started in 2008 in Nairobi, and then now we are in Uganda and in Rwanda as well. So
in Kigali
and in Kampala. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this was your brainchild?
Yeah.
I guess people bring blankets
yeah, so people
and wine.
bring blankets and bring some wine.
So what made you come up with it?
So the beginnings of it is really, I'm a musician. That's my primary vocation. I sing, I rap, I play drums. I really love music, and I hope I remain an artist all my life. But when I started my career, one of the things that I had a lot from the people who had platforms and opportunities in this space was that I was not Kenyan enough, that the sound wasn't Kenyan enough, and therefore it wouldn't really work on the platforms that existed. And so because I didn't want to quit music, I just had to figure out how to platform myself. And I really just was like, look, you want to make music, there's lots of artists like you who are outcasts or misfits or for whom this space doesn't exist. Okay. So then I needed a place to perform my music. I needed to exist as an artist. Yeah. I wanted to be in front of audiences. So in a brainstorm with my friends, we were like, you know, what you're doing indoors now, just take it outdoors, you know, instead of playing by yourself, program all the other misfits and all the, you know, the other not enoughs, right?
Yeah.
And then you could cross-pollinate an audience and, you know, let's make it happen. And then I slept on it. When I woke up, I had a strong conviction that it would work. I also just felt like there was something that was fundamentally missing from the music scene, because then the music scene was kind of locked in clubs and on radio. And I said, you know, that's too limiting. What about something that's kind of in none of those two worlds? And what about a space that really prioritizes discovery of music and co-creation of a vibe, you know, with the audience? I also felt convinced that Nairobi is the kind of place that you can make this experiment happen. It's super multicultural. There's lots of people who've studied abroad and have been exposed to the idea of festivals. And so, you know, coming back home, this is something that was actually missing in their palette of entertainment. And ultimately, like, who doesn't want to just hang out on Sunday, listen to music?
Who doesn't?
Drink some wine with your friends. I mean, it kind of works.
Okay. I heard that you were somewhere in the vicinity of the king.
Yeah.
Who was here with Camilla.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah.
What were you doing there? What was it like?
So, in fact, I was there in 2 capacities. So we were invited by the British Council to produce a series of events around the king being here. We also ran a music incubator, so we're kind of selective on the kind of gigs that we produce. So this is one of those gigs that we were like, yes, happy to produce that. So we were there with the production company, but then I was also invited into a huddle, like a table to kind of speak to His Majesty about the creative scene in Kenya. And there was a few of us who were invited into that huddle.
That is just amazing.
It was kind of fun, to be honest.
What is the music incubator? What is it?
So just like the festival, that's really been born out of just need.
Yeah.
So then we thought that maybe if we develop a systemized way of thinking, you know, we could upskill people who already know some stuff and then now just give them the real language, right? And then we've trained, so we've done 3 cohorts, trained about 105 professionals now in the industry who we are like, yeah, you guys know what you're doing. There is nowhere you can get like formal training for the music industry.
Yeah.
So we are the formal
What
education.
is the name? What is the name?
Perform Music Incubator.
Muthoni, it's been such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming out tonight
Yeah.
in the cold and the rain.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure.
Yes.
It's truly my pleasure.
Washington, D.C. is preparing for the Christmas holiday with many businesses, homes and public areas decorating with bright lights, wreaths and Christmas trees. VOA's Antonella Bruto takes a look at some of the unique holiday decorations around the U.S. Capitol and the traditions behind them.
Here and across the United States, holiday decorations are making their ways into homes, businesses, and public areas. Wreaths and Christmas lights, like the ones you see behind me, are typical for outdoor decorations, but the most common thing you'll find in an American home this Christmas is the Christmas tree. Washington, D.C. has some unique Christmas trees that they feature in public areas and that have some unique traditions. Come take a look. At Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, visitors and residents of the city alike are welcomed by a beautiful Christmas tree in the station's main hall. The Royal Norwegian Embassy started this 22 years ago and continues the tradition of giving and decorating a Christmas tree, a symbol of thanks and friendship for the United States aid given in World War II. The 32-foot tree is decorated with lights, American and Norwegian flags, all made from recycled or sustainable materials. Another Christmas tree is set up at the United States Capitol. Unlike the tree within Union Station, this one is cut down every year and brought to the Capitol. Originally started in 1964, the People's Tree, as it's known, was created by Speaker of the House of Representatives John McCormack, who brought a live tree to the front lawn of the Capitol to celebrate the holiday season. Now, every year, the United States Forest Service selects, cuts down, and transports an evergreen tree from one of the 50 states. This year's 63-foot tree is from outside of Washington, D.C., in West Virginia. Anyone is welcome to create and decorate trees overlooking the National Mall. The final Christmas tree, or rather Christmas trees, are located in between the Washington Monument and the White House, known as the National Christmas Tree. This tree and decorations are selected by whomever is the current president, surrounded by smaller trees representing the states, territories, reservations, and administrative regions, and decorations from each. This display is...
Thanks, Anthony.